In this show, we have Jeff Pfitzer. He is a social media guru along with a mortgage lender. He really started getting in this business for the sake of mortgage lending and be able to get out there and have people know. But he quickly jumped. Man, he tells you about his story where he ran 2,018 miles in the year of 2018. So he had to run over 6 miles a day. For that, he talks a little bit about how he got in the same room as another billionaire and the kind of questions that he asked. This guy has a lot of value, talks a lot about concepts in regards to just mindset, reality, and what it actually takes in order to get the job done and be successful. And that's what it's all about, right? We're looking to get the job done, be successful. And it's all about the high level living that we here on this podcast all talk about. So I'm excited to get Jeff on the show. I'm excited for him to be able to share and show what he's all about and who he is and all kind of stuff. And he even gives a little secret at the end of the show and a way to communicate with him the easiest. So that part's pretty cool, pretty exciting. And I'm gonna tell you right now, he gives out something. Just do it. Just get it. Anyway, let's jump on the show. Let's talk to Jeff right now. Thanks for being on the show, Jeff. Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here, man. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. So I'm excited to be able to bring you on the show for a couple of different reasons. One is that you are the first person in this space that we have interviewed. So I'm excited to be able to share with our audience what that looks like. And I'm going to allow you to talk all about that. But second, I'm excited because just looking through your content and looking through, your social media profiles, what kind of stuff you really talk about, it's very direct and very just boom in your face. Like I'm going to tell you exactly how it is. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into that in regards to your decisiveness, what led you to that. So we're going to ask those questions in a little bit. But before we go there, I did want to give us just a general, hey, who is Jeff and where does he come from? What was his family life like? And how did he get to where he is today?
God, that's a loaded question.
Oh, yeah. Together.
I try to keep this short, so I am in the mortgage space. I'm in a lot of spaces now, actually, but my bread and butter is mortgage and has been for 22 years now. I actually really don't love that space, but it's a space that has afforded me a lifestyle. It has afforded me opportunities, flexibility, all those sort of things that everybody's looking for.
So when you say mortgage, do you do residential, commercial?
Yeah,
okay.
Residential. Yeah, residential. So I got in it in 2000. So that was when my oldest daughter was born, and this was before the crash. So this was even before the wild, wild west. So if anybody who's in real estate understands what that means, before things really got wonky. But it was shortly after I got in the business, things started to go. It was quick to see that a crash was going to happen.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I always have said is I wish I had better foresight. I did have the foresight. In fact, I was spot on about the crash of 07, 08. I knew it was going to happen because I was seeing what was happening in the industry. But what I did was I diversified, and I had ownership in almost anything you can think of. Like I had ownership in tan salons. I had ownership in a energy drink. It was totally random stuff. Just people that I was connected to. We had a distributorship for an energy drink. I owned restaurants, owned a lot of real estate.
Wow.
And in hindsight, if I had just gone all in on mortgage, I would be where I want to be in 10 years, right? I'd probably be retired. I actually failed at all of those things, which ended up setting me back. And yet here I still am in mortgage. So had I just not focused on mortgage, I'd probably be in a different position, but I'm still in a good one. I'm nobody's going to feel sorry for me. But so been in the mortgage space since 2000, around 2015-ish. We were struggling to grow. We had plateaued. We were a pretty successful group within our organization, and we just got found at the right time. I always kind of had an eye on innovation and marketing and that sort of thing. And it's just not big in our industry, in the mortgage space specifically. And I didn't like the direction of our company at the time, which is USA Mortgage. We left and came back. But we ended up getting found by another company. We left. We spent a 2-year hiatus. Our entire group followed us. And it was a great experience. It was a failed experience, but it was an experience that got me out of my comfort zone, because when I left my current company at the time, I had to change the way I marketed. And I said, you know what, now we're going to be bringing a new company to town. Now my former colleagues are now my competitors. So how can I differentiate myself? And this was right about the time that Facebook Live was becoming a thing. It was brand spanking new.
Yeah.
There was a guy in my market doing these things called coffee talk. And so, because I don't think Facebook Live came out and people were just like, all right, what do you do with it? Like, what's the point? And, you know, a lot of people were just, you know, videoing what was going on in their lives, videoing their kids at their games. And then this guy, and he's probably one of the pioneers, started using it for business. And I was just enamored by it. I was like, you know, I think this guy's onto something. And so I got to know him. Long story short, he connected me to a guy in Chicago by the name of Mike Cuevas, he calls himself the real estate marketing dude. And he's since moved to San Diego, but he ended up connecting me to a videographer who I ended up getting connected to some people in San Diego. And again, long story short, I started doing video back then before anybody was really doing it. I quickly learned that I was boring myself talking about mortgage, talking about real estate. And when I got connected to this videographer who was specialized in green screen content, and this dude is just really funny. He's really goofy. He's TikTok before TikTok. You know, TikTok now, that's mainstream, right? But so I was just enamored by it. And I was like, you know what? Why couldn't I put out content that can bring you back to my business, but have fun with it? And so I was essentially doing TikToks before TikTok existed, dancing around, doing stupid stuff, what is now today called edutainment. And honestly, it got me found, and it got me found in the space, in the real estate space. I got invited to a mastermind in San Diego, got to get connected to some big just whales in the industry. There's multiple millionaires in this mastermind. There was a couple billionaires, and it just got me to think differently.
What was this mastermind called?
It's called Closing Table Mastermind.
And
it was it was a mastermind that was taken from, let's see, there's a mothership mastermind that's not specific to real estate. I can't think of the name of it, but the company that puts this on is called Digital Marketer, and they have a conference called Traffic and Conversion, which is very well known. It's a huge conference they put on every year. They also have another mastermind that's just entrepreneurs, very successful people. And then these two guys that put on Closing Table were in that mastermind. Then they spun off to do Closing Table, which was going to be specific to real estate. And the whole concept is really just get a bunch of high level thinkers, successful people in a room together, and let's share ideas, strategy, and next level conversations. And that's exactly what it was. And the anomaly for me was that I'm a mortgage guy. And if you're in real estate, you know that mortgage guys don't get invited to anything unless we're bringing donuts, we're picking up the tab, right? We're giving them our credit card, right?
And so this was an invitation. This was like not even a situation where, oh yeah, apply here and pay. You know, you were invited to be a part of this.
So it was like my first. So this guy's name is Sam Karamian. He runs a very successful brokerage out of San Diego called Big Block Realty, and he's a stud. He's become a mentor, and he does some amazing things. But you know, so when he called me the first time, I'm like, Sam, what's the catch, man? I mean, you're not calling me. Like, I know there's something here. And he told me, he said, listen, we're going to charge to be in this mastermind. This is the way it works. But I want you to come for free. You just pay for your travel costs and just check it out. And what he told me that resonated with me was, listen, I belong to this other mastermind which is the reason for this one. And what I was told when I got into this group is I can't tell you what you're going to get out of it, but the opportunities and the relationships you're going to make are going to be priceless if you use it correctly. And I said, you know what? All right, fine. That's enough for me. I'll come check it out. Plus they were doing it at the Ritz-Carlton and Laguna Niguel. It was like, I'm going to bring my wife. It'll be a little mini vacation. Right. And so I did. And I went, and there was like 30 people there, maybe 20 to 30. It was pretty small. And their keynote speaker, the first one, was Jesse Itzler. I don't know if you know who Jesse Itzler is, but he's a billionaire in his own right. He's married to a billionaire. He married Sarah Blakely, who is the founder of Spanx. Jesse was the founder of Marquis Jet, which he sold to Warren Buffett. He founded Zyko Water. He's done a bunch of things since, and he's like an ultra athlete. So I knew of Jesse Itzler anyway. I'd read one of his books. And so that was enough reason. That was a second reason for me to go to this, because I was like, this will be cool. I get to hear Jesse speak in an intimate setting.
Yeah. And it's not so often that you're in the same room with billionaires.
Billionaire.
I mean, that is the amount of value that can be, construed from that alone is huge, just because that's a whole nother level to get from, millionaire is one thing, but like to be a billionaire, like that's a whole different level and concept of thinking.
It's beyond what most of us will ever even be able to comprehend.
Absolutely.
Totally. And so again, the story is, and here's kind of what the memory of the story was, is that again, I had already read Jesse's book, and it's Living with a SEAL is the name of the book. And we were talking offline before we started this about that I'm not a big reader and I want to be a big reader.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have read that book, and it's called Living with a SEAL, where he hired a Navy SEAL to come live with him for 30 days to basically kick his ass. That SEAL, by the way, is David Goggins.
Yep, I remember this
story. So you know this story.
Yep,
and David Goggins became famous as a result of his time with Jesse Itzler. He ended up marrying Jesse's sister. Wow. Anyways, so what happened was, so Jesse spoke, and this is the second time I'd actually seen him speak. I'd seen him speak at another conference, another mortgage conference, where he was a keynote, but it was a bigger conference. I didn't get a chance to actually get close to him. Yeah. And in this conference, it got to the end, we were doing a Q&A, and again, 20, 30 people in the room, it's intimate. Yeah. And again, I was a blip on the radar in that I felt like like I was sucking my thumb in the corner of the room, in this room with these successful people. Not only are they way more successful than me, I'm a mortgage guy. They're real estate people. I don't belong. Right. But I don't know where this came to me, but I had this idea where when it got to Q&A, I was like, I raised my hand and I was like, Jesse, I've read your book. I know a lot about you. You're an inspiration. I know you're a runner. I'm a runner. If you're going to be here for the next couple of days, will you go for a run with me? And of course, the room erupted in laughter, because I think people are thinking, wow, what the balls on this guy to ask this question.
Oh, man.
And it started with Jesse he goes, you know what? Yes, I will. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't expect that. And then later on, he was answering another question, and the answer of the question was, you got to learn to say no. He actually circled back to me and said, and you know what? Actually, no, I won't go for a run with you. And I was like, damn, why'd you have to ask that question?
Dang.
And then after we were done, people are talking to him. I cornered him in the hallway and I said, I was serious. Like if you're here, which I knew he was, because he had said that, and he was there to meet with he was doing something in LA. And I was like, seriously, if you're going to go for a run or whatever. And he goes, actually, I'm not running right now because I had an injury, but if you know Jesse, he only eats fruit before noon. He's a goofy guy like that. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and there's this smoothie bowl place that's 6 miles away. So I'm going to walk to it tomorrow morning, meet me in the lobby at 6:30, and you can go with me. And sure as shit, it happened. I got one-on-one time for 3 hours, because we were walking this, I guess it was maybe 6 miles round trip, but it ended up being about 3 hours. We walked there, ate our smoothie bowls, hung out, and then Ubered back because it took so long. But I got 3 hours one-on-one time with a billionaire. Dude, it was freaking priceless. I mean, I have his cell phone number. We don't really stay in touch. I'll text him every once in a while and I'll get like a thumbs up response. So, but it was priceless. And so needless to say, it got more than that. That was in and of itself priceless. Yeah. The respect I immediately gained in that room was really what helped catapult me to be like, okay, this is not just some screwball lender here. This guy's legit. I like this guy. And I think it just caught the attention of people, and things just evolved and expanded. I did another thing that caught a lot of people's attention as well, because I'm kind of a media mindset. Yeah. And I was like, I'm all about content. Like, how can I create content? And I'll leave you with two more things and then we can move on. But one of the questions I asked Jesse is like, hey, I know your story. Like, you do these crazy things, you hired a SEAL, right? All this stuff. Like, I want to do something like that, because I can't impress millionaires and billionaires with my success in business, because that doesn't impress them. They're all surpassed me. I need them, right? But what I can do is probably something physical related, like you, Jesse, where these people can't do it. And I had an idea. And Jesse was like, that's not good enough. And here's an idea. And this was November of 2017. And he goes, he knew I was a runner, obviously. He goes, here's a challenge I've tried and I've never been able to accomplish it, to run the number of miles that are the year. So he goes, what you should do is try to run 2018 miles in 2018. And I'm like, shit, I could get out my freaking phone to do the math on that. And I'm like, that's like 6.2 miles a day. And he's like, yeah, that's why I've never been able to accomplish it. And I'm like, I just got challenged by a billionaire. I'm going to do it. And
yes.
I ended up, I created a Facebook group around this to create media around it. And I ended up using the group as basically my place to blog it and essentially just update. So every single run, whether it was on a treadmill, I took a picture of what it was at the end, or I snipped a picture of my Nike app if I ran outside, and I just used it. And I just shared that throughout the year. I would do a monthly update. I would go live every once in a while, talk about the challenges I was going through, the pain I was going through. And at the end of that year, I ended up getting news coverage. A local news station came out and wanted to do a story about me and do the last run. But the respect I earned from the people in that room, and I got on their radars, and now I quickly became one of them. And so the moral of the story is, you hear the cliche saying, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like, that is so freaking true.
Yep.
And it's not just 5, but it's you are what you surround yourself with. And I always tell people, like, I'm constantly leveling that up, because of some of my friends that got me into that room that are still my friends to this day kind of stayed stagnant. And I'm sorry, but I'll be your friend, but I don't need you anymore from a business perspective.
Yep.
I got to move on to somebody who can challenge me and bring me more value. And so I'm constantly evolving that room, quote unquote, of the people that I'm spending my time with. And it led to me becoming really good friends with a guy named Tristan Almada, who's the founder of the biggest real estate Facebook group on the planet called Lab Coat Agents. And I ended up I'm the host of their podcast, and now we're business partners and do a bunch of things together. And just the rooms of people that I'm in now, and by rooms, I mean mostly virtual.
Yeah.
But the connections that I now have, I've been able to build up my authority status in the industry. And it really helped my business explode, because now, instead of me chasing business, which is what we're all doing essentially in sales, my phone's ringing with people saying, hey, you're the expert at this, which is video and social. That's kind of what I've figured out.
Yeah.
That was my superpower. And now, not only do we have businesses revolved around it where we coach social media, and I'll talk more about that. We have a video school where we teach real estate professionals video. And all of that feeds back to mortgage ultimately, because now the people that we're chasing, they need me. They want me. I can help them with their business. I'm more valuable to them than their own broker is. And it has created just endless opportunities. And so it's created the lifestyle that I now have, which is, I think, the whole reason why you found me in the first place.
Yep, that's true. That's very true. Okay, so there's so much to unpack there, but there's one common theme that I've seen through it all. And that common theme would be, you're not afraid to take an opportunity and see an opportunity and take it. But like, so I'm assuming it didn't just start there, right? Like, that your first time of taking an opportunity or seeing an opportunity and taking it didn't start at, being in that room of 22, 30 people and saying, hey, I'm in front of a billionaire, maybe I'll take a shot. So like, where does that come from? That say drive, if you will, come from to want to even say, hey, yeah, let's see if I can get a one-on-one with this guy. Like what was going through your mind in that very first interaction?
Honestly, man, first of all, I was nervous as hell. I was probably sweating before I asked the question. Yeah. I didn't even have that in my mind. I didn't know where it was going to go, but it's a great question that you asked, because I teach this to my loan officers all the time, because, again, I've become, and it's stupid to say, it makes me feel weird to say it, but I've become a celebrity in my own business, in our own space. Yeah. And so I always tell my loan officers, because a lot of them, they come work for me and for our group because of me, because, he's a celebrity and he can teach me so much stuff. Right. And I always tell them, like, people will come here and then they'll never talk to me. I'll never hear from them. And I'm like, what is your problem? Like, you have a direct line to me. And they're like, well, I asked you and you didn't respond that one day. And I'm like, so ask again.
Yeah.
Like,
don't stop.
Like, I'm like, squeaky wheel gets the damn grease. And I said, the one thing that I've learned in my life is the worst thing that's ever going to happen if I ask is no. And if that happens, so what? Move on. Or you know what? I might ask a different way. But if you don't ask, you'll never receive. And so looking back, had I not raised my hand and asked Jesse Pfitzer that question, I wouldn't have this story. I probably would have remained a blip I would have remained this little peon in the room,
Yep.
and I never would have probably gained anything from it. And I would have never gained relationships, but because I didn't ask. And
Yep.
the same thing with Tristan. It's like Tristan's this huge name in the real estate space. Now I just got back. I was at his house on Thursday and Friday of last week, staying at his house because we're business partners. And he's like, I insist you stay here. Don't freaking stay at a hotel. And I'm like, okay. and that's what it's become. And it's all because I'm just persistent and I ask, I'm not afraid. And I know how humans are just in general, because this applies to anybody in any part of life.
Absolutely.
Is just ask, man, because and the reality is this is I've learned this with successful people, because now I am that person, is that most successful people are more humble than you realize, and they want to share their story because they realize that what you're going through is exactly what we went through. So I'm the one who was asking the question to the person that I wanted to be like. Yep. And so again, I just asked, and you're going to get no's, you're going to get ignored a lot. It does happen. Yep. But the more you ask, even if it's 1 out of 10, that's pretty damn good odds.
Yeah.
And so
that's fantastic.
Just ask. I didn't even really have that goal in mind. Like I didn't walk into that room that day and say, I'm going to get one-on-one time with Jesse. Like,
sure.
I guess just the way my brain has always worked this way, even as I can remember as back as a child, as being a teenager and thinking, why can't I? Like that was my mindset. Like I watched Top Gun as a kid and thought, why can't I be a naval aviator? Right? Why can't I own a home, a second home in the mountains in Colorado? Why can't I own a home in Florida on the beach? Why can't I do these things? And I've always I guess it's a simplistic mindset of just, I think we as humans we're raised a certain way in a certain class, and we just follow in those footsteps by and large, because we just feel like, well, that's not me. I'm not going to own a jet. I'm not going to own a baseball team. I'm not going to be able to go vacation 10 times a year, whatever it is. And my attitude has always been, well, I'm going to try to make that happen.
There you go.
And so I don't believe that there's no boundaries. There's no boundaries in my world. Like, what can I achieve? And I'll be honest with you, dude. I don't aspire to be a billionaire. I've reached 7-figure status, and it's pretty damn awesome. I don't need any more than that. Frankly, I don't even need that much. I'm from the Midwest, so it's a simpler lifestyle. But so now at this point, I'm chasing what I love, which is a passion, which is work. I work more now than I ever have because I love what I do. Yeah. But as you know, if you follow me, I vacation a lot, and because I can work from anywhere. And so now I own a condo in Breckenridge, and we own an Airbnb in Savannah, Georgia. And we're going to want to buy a place in Florida at some point coming years. We're going to build a house at the Lake of the Ozarks. These are all the things that are now become a reality. And I joined a country club because I love golf. And it's all these things that, honestly, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would you ever have these things? I'd probably be like, yeah, probably not. Maybe a fraction of something.
Sure. Well,
anything's possible, dude. Anything's possible.
And it's so what I was thinking was that a lot of people will look at something or someone's situation and like, man, they must have figured this out and done all this and X, Y, and Z. And they think it attributes to some sort of secret sauce. But the reality is it's just being able to apply the consistent, normal, average. I mean, just like that, as you said, hey, I just raised my hand, asked that question, and I just saw an opportunity. Would you go on, run with me? Because obviously there's something there when you're hearing this guy speak and you're like, hey, he's providing a lot of value. I would love to get some time with him or something of that nature, learn from him. And just to go into that, just that one habit alone of being able to see an opportunity and just being able to ask that question, well, how can I? But even during that time when you had that walk with him, what was that like? I mean, what'd you ask him? What'd you learn? Like, how'd you utilize that time?
Well, it was cool. Actually, one of the biggest things I remember was that I thought I'm going to go just grilling him with questions, and it actually went the other way, which was really awesome. It made me realize how special he is as a human.
Wow.
Like, he wanted to get to know me. And I think he looked at it like, okay, I'm going to give this guy what he just won, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
He just won time with me. I'm going to give him what he wants. But rather than just letting me grill him, like I think would be most people's inclination, his was, I got to get to know you so I can know how I can best give you advice.
That's another great concept that I just thought about. I have a friend who said this the other day, but it's not about who you know, but it's about who knows you in regards of you being known to. That goes back to that, who's in your innermost 5 circle, but those people being like you being known to those people, there's a lot of relationships and opportunities that come with that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, anyways, the conversation was so it was a lot him asking questions, and then of course it went into the whole, it led to the 2018 and it ended up me asking him a lot of questions. What was he doing in LA? He was doing something. They were creating, it was something with the music industry. It was just fascinating, honestly, when it all came to an end. Essentially, it was a lot of just, I think one of the things I learned and I knew this, but sometimes you don't really realize it, is that these uber wealthy, successful people are just as human as we are. They just live a little bit different, extravagant lifestyle. But he started, I mean, to hear his story and to know his story, I mean, it's pretty inspiring. I don't have that. Like, a lot of times successful people come from really bad situations and maybe abuse of some kind, or, a parent in jail or death. And I don't have any of that, man. I was very middle class. I had a very good upbringing, not wealthy, right? Very normal. And my siblings followed in that path. Not that there's anything wrong with that. They're both successful in their own right, but I'm the black sheep. I'm the one that my dad still to this day will always tells me, it's like, yeah, you're the odd one, but in a good way. Like you figured things out, like anything's possible. And that's actually a good story. I do remember this. My dad, who was successful, middle management type of guy with Anheuser-Busch most of his life, he bought an investment property at one point and it went really bad. Like a lot of investment properties do, right? And his experience from that was, screw this, I'm never doing it again. And I remember thinking like, well, why don't you learn from it and just try again? And he's like, nope, I'm out. Right. And how
old were you when you thought that?
Gosh, I was probably in my teens.
Wow.
I don't remember thinking it specifically in that time. I remember thinking back about it, thinking to myself, I'm not like that. Like I'm going to fail. Like most people fail and they say that was painful, never again. I'm like, that was painful. It's like a game. I got to beat this damn thing.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not going to let that do it to me again. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that is another mindset that people just need to get themselves into, which is we so fear the uncomfortable and give me a successful person and I'll give you 50 failures. They'll tell you 50 failures. Like most successful people have 3 success stories to their 50 failures. Absolutely. That's just reality.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of the name of the game.
Yeah. And I think that when you understand that concept of knowing that, okay, I'm going to fail and you're going to fail again and again and again, and it's not going to feel great, but you're going to learn from it and you're going to have some form of success if you're learning and applying the things that led to that failure.
Yeah.
I mean, but that is really the reality of the name of the game. And being uncomfortable also, in addition to that, is the name of the game. Even just from knowing my background, as listeners know, is, coming from the fire service, it was a very secure job, or in terms of secure, right? Quote unquote. And, having all these different things being paid for. But the reality is, in my last 2 years from having, cut my ties and service with them, I have made the most money I've ever made, and I've been able to invest the most time I have within my family, versus from 4 years being in the fire service with my family at the same time versus the last 2 years not being in the fire service with my family. But it's also been the most uncomfortable I've been. I've been the most scared shitless I've been.
Yeah.
I've been in different, I've learned probably the most I have in the last 2 years in regards to business. But I think that is that is part of the game, if you will, that comes with it, at least. And actually, I'll tell you this too, it never ends. Yeah.
And I can speak to it right now. The last 2 years are my best financial years ever. And I've had enough failures now though to not take it for granted. I've gone through this. Like 2012 was a really big year. And I look back now and I thought, you think back then when you hit those pinnacles that it's just going to continue.
Yeah.
And you don't think about the worst cases. Whereas the last couple of years, I'm thinking, okay, when's the bottom falling out? Well, the bottom is now falling out. And if you're in the business, you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
In real estate. Whereas we're in an anomaly. We're in a time when there's always cycles, and this is another cycle, but it's a weird cycle. There's no inventory, and rates have just doubled, and so like business is all but dried up. And I'm just as concerned as I would have been 10 years ago, except this time I know it's just a matter of weathering the storm, because we've built the infrastructure and we have the right business built that we're going to come out of this stronger than everybody else, but it's going to be painful as hell like it is right now. And we're going to lose a lot of money, and I'm going to take a massive dip in income this year. But because of what I did the last couple of years, and because I had so many failures, I learned not to just go buy every fancy car and every fancy house, and every investment that I've made is an investment that A, is either driving a return, or B, has equitable value. That it's not just money burnt on a purse, right? Or shoes or Air Jordans or whatever. Don't get me wrong, I have some of that stuff, but I stay humble, right? I don't go crazy. And what has been most important to me is having 6-figure plus savings, because I don't ever want to go back to when I'm not sure how I'm going to pay my bills from month to month. And I know that most people listening to this stuff all are going through that or have gone through that. And it sucks, man. I don't know how. I hated living like that. I hated losing sleep over how am I going to pay my bills next month. And but it's all a part of the process, right? And unless we're born to Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, that's a good name right now. That's not reality, right? But the rest of us, you and me and Michael, like we live reality, and the reality is that you can make your own reality, but you're gonna be very uncomfortable. So even though I'm as comfortable as I've ever been, I'm very uncomfortable right now, and I'm like, I hate this shit. Like, damn it, I want to get out of this business, right? And I know it will pass, right? I just got to weather the storm. And you said something I want to comment on too earlier. You used the word secret sauce, and the reality is this: there's no secret. There's no such thing as any secrets. Everything is out in the open. So anybody who thinks they have a secret, you're an idiot. I hate to say it.
Get out of here.
There's no secret, especially in today's day and age. But there is a lot of sauce, and the sauce though is things like work ethic. It's things like discipline. It's things like consistency. It's things like being uncomfortable, right? Being comfortable, being uncomfortable. I know it's all cliche shit, but man, that's the reality of it, man. It's like,
absolutely.
If you're a real estate agent or you're a mortgage lender, do you study your competition? And I'll give you an example of this is what I've kind of realized. And by the way, I'm not like some scholar that had this all figured out. I figured it out by accident. But what I have figured out is that, like, for example, what do lenders do? Like, if you're a loan officer, you go to a mortgage conference. And now that I think back, now that I've learned what I've learned, it's like, why do people do that? Like, why do they go herd together? They all go herd together, learn the same shit so they can just create more competition for themselves, when what you should be doing is, who's your target? Your target is either borrowers or realtors. Well, why wouldn't you go to the real estate conference, learn what they're learning, so then you can come back to your market and be the quote unquote authority on teaching the real estate agents in your market new stuff. And that's what I kind of learned by default through this mastermind. Was like, holy crap. Like, this doesn't apply to my business, but I'm learning so much stuff now that I can take back, and I'm going to start talking to my realtors, and they're going to be like, where are you learning this stuff at? And I'm going to be like, yeah, this is where I spend my time now. And so I think a lot of it is me studying. Part of it was studying my competition to say, okay, what is everybody else doing and how can I be different? And I think so many of us in our industries are just, we all just follow. Yep. And it's very uncomfortable to get in front of the video camera, especially because that's what I did. And people criticize me, man. My competition was rough. Still to this day, I take criticism, but now it works. And some of those criticizers came back and said, damn, you were right. Like I applaud you kind of thing, but you just got to be convicted in what you believe, and you got to take a chance. And so honestly, now this is one of the things we do. We teach this. Tristan and I teach social. And so now we're going to conferences, and now I get paid to speak at these real estate conferences. And I'm talking about, of course, people want to learn the now. Yeah. But part of my sizzle is I study what's coming. And so now we're talking about a lot of VR and AR and the joke I make with realtors is I say, in less than 10 years, you're going to pick up a buyer or a listing because they watched a walkthrough of their of a house that you have listed in virtual reality, because you're going to shoot it, and they're going to watch it in their Oculus. Then they're going to reach out to you and say they want to buy this house that's an NFT, and they want to buy it through the blockchain because they have all their money in crypto. And then you're going to be a hologram in their living room through augmented reality, selling them on why you should be their agent. And people are looking at me like, what? Dude. And I'm like, yeah, in the next 10 years, maybe even 5.
I could see that. I could definitely see that happening. And that would be so dang cool.
It's going to happen. But that's the reality. Most people look at it. You and I say that's so freaking cool. Most people are like, holy shit, I'm scared to death. Yeah. And so that's my point. My point is embrace what's coming. Yep. Because Gary Vee said it best. He said 30 years from now, and it's probably even less than that, but he said 30 years from now, we're going to look back and say, I long for the day when it was just social media, because everybody's like, social media is so bad and it ruins people. And 30 years from now, we're going to long for the day that was just social media. Just like when radios came out and moms said, I wish these things never existed, because my kids now, instead of playing ball in the yard, they just want to listen to it on the radio. Wow. And you think about it, like, technology is not going to stop evolving. Yep. And so you can fight it and hate it and be mad about it, but you're just going to be left behind. And I always tell people, I'm like, I'm not going to say that if you don't shoot video, you're not going to be successful. But here's what I can tell you. A, you're creating a handicap for your business. You're the people that do shoot video create an advantage for themselves. Yep. And then B is that if your mindset is always that minimalist mindset of, kind of limiting beliefs kind of thing. Yeah. You have such an advantage by, for example, embracing TikTok early, because you're probably like me, that has 30-something thousand followers, because I was on it early. Yeah. And that's the whole concept is you have to always be thinking ahead. And then when something new comes, embrace it early, because if it takes off, you're going to create such an advantage for yourself. And there was something else I wanted to say, but I totally forgot it. So I segued on my own self.
A couple things to that. So one, what is your like preferred social media like platform, or is they all kind of equal?
Yeah. If you're watching this, you'll see that I literally have them on my wall behind me. That's how big a deal it is for me. TikTok's my favorite, hands down.
Why is that?
Because, well, first of all, it's changed the way we market.
Yep.
It's changing every social platform. They're all copying it. Even YouTube, who arguably is better than TikTok from a business perspective. So right now, TikTok is it's the trendsetter. It's the cornerstone. And so I tell people that, don't worry about TikTok from a perspective of, am I going to get business from it? Although you can, and you will, if you use it. Use it because the technology that it is, the features that it has are so far advanced from every other platform. If you can understand and learn how to use TikTok, it makes shooting Instagram Reels 10 times easier, because it's a fraction of TikTok, and then Facebook Reels, and not furthermore, what you're creating on TikTok, to me, that's just my creation. That's just the hub. Yeah. And so I create my TikToks, and I have different pillars of content, and then I distribute it where it
So
belongs.
you start it on TikTok and then you go in those multiple platforms from there.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I actually both Instagram and TikTok. So Instagram for me is very personal, whereas TikTok's less personal. So Instagram is where I vomit my life. It's like I call it the Pfitzer family reality TV show. And as you know this, Michael, you've followed me, so you know I don't do all that stuff on TikTok because the platform's different. Like of course now TikTok does have stories. Yep. I'm not using it the same way, but on Instagram I use stories and I vomit my life all day long. And I share those intimate things about me because that's what connects people to me. If I was just talking about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and mortgage rates this and mortgage rates that, nobody's going to follow me. That's not interesting.
Yeah.
And so, the thing that we teach is authenticity wins. And it's like in real estate, it's the worst, man. It's the absolute worst industry because realtors get on Facebook or social media and just start barking about real estate. And the reality is the only people that are actually watching that are your colleagues and your peers, not your target
real
audience.
Estate people. Yep.
Exactly. And so, but if you want to connect with more people and you're a golfer, share more about golf. You're not going to go viral. Well, maybe you will, but you probably won't. But you might have 200 connections to different people that have the same like that now are going to have a connection to you. Or if you're into gardening, people are going to gravitate to you who are into gardening. Or if you're into just Netflix binge watching, fine, share it. If you have toddlers, share it. If you have pets, share it. It doesn't matter. Share things that will allow you to connect with people.
So would you be sharing these things the same way you would so I know you don't do it as personal on TikTok, but do you share those same type of avenues of your interests, a little bit about you, your relatability on TikTok?
I do. So my strategy this year, actually TikTok has been very personal for me. And actually I had to shift that and say, okay, this is never going to really work for me business wise. So I actually have to focus on something. And as my business and brand has evolved and now I'm coaching social media and doing these sort of things, that is a big pillar of my content on social now is just tips and tricks and that sort of thing. I still sprinkle in the personal stuff, but I try to keep it more specific to what I know my audience wants. Got it. I've gone viral because of Lake of the Ozarks content, because the show obviously that helps.
Yeah.
But I post just cool stuff, cool boats. I go to the boat races. The Lake of the Ozarks there's just tons of millionaires there, tons of big houses. People don't realize this because the show depicts it a different way.
Yeah.
But that show gave it popularity. And so now I go share that stuff. So I keep consistently putting that stuff out. And then I do put out tons of, you'll see it. Because if you look at my grid, I have it actually very organized. So I have a purple cover, which is social media news. Okay. I have a red cover, which is business, video, and social tips and tricks, things like that. And then I have just a random cover. And so I post them in order. So if it's social media news, the next one's got to be a red cover, which is to tips. And then the next one needs to be something personal. And so I keep it organized. So if you say, I saw your post about the Lake of the Ozarks, and I want to go binge watch your content, you can easily go to my grid now and scroll and find Lake of the Ozarks content because it's labeled correctly. Yeah. And so but here's the other thing, Michael, I'm also a pioneer as it comes to social. So one of my goals is I have to stay out ahead. So I have to keep testing and trying things. And I'm literally thinking right now, my conversation is going on in my head, or I need to change my TikTok strategy because I'm kind of I'm narrowing down what my audience wants and is. Yeah. So I need to just eliminate. I'm creating too much work for myself, and I can condense down because I'm posting 15 videos a week on TikTok. I'm probably going to condense it down to like 7 to 10 a week. Okay. And just because I'm figuring out what my audience wants and is. Now, are people as interested in my social media content? No. They're interested in Lake of the Ozarks, but I'm going to ignore that and just keep pumping it out because after a number of years, people are going to I'm going to be the expert. Yeah. And it just turns into opportunity. So I'm just going to stay focused and I'm going to stay consistent and I'm going to stay disciplined, all those things, because I know that you get on social and you get consistent for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, even 12 months, you may see nothing from it. Sure. But if you stick with it for 2 to 3 years, man, I'm telling you, people will notice. And
So you did say something earlier, and that you just said just recently again, and I think it comes down to singularity of focus. So, I mean, that seems to be something you said early on in our conversation in regards to, you were investing, diversifying, and all these different places, but you wish you would have just kept it all in the one basket that you were just, hey, let me just learn this skill and learn it very well. Why do you see that would have been an opportunity, and how important is that, say, concept for you now?
I mean, I wholeheartedly believe in it. Now, do I think that you should do one thing and stick to one thing? No, but what I think you should do is, it's like when you go to a conference and you hear all these speakers and you're blown away and you take 10 pages of notes and you go home and you do nothing because you got too much.
Yep.
And so what I teach and coaches, and like with social or with my loan officers, is that figure out what it is you want to learn, put on blinders, that singularity of focus on it, ignore everything else.
Yep.
Get it down to where it's like a third arm. It's second nature. It's easy to do. Then move on to the next thing, because now it's second nature and you can add something to it. But have that singularity of focus. And so same thing with social. We teach the same thing, because people get into social. They're hearing people like me speak, saying the reality is this, Michael, and I don't mean to segue, but like technology in our field, in most fields, is ultimately designed to replace humans. And that's what's coming. And so, but the only thing that you can always combat robots is authenticity. Robots will never be you. Robots will never be planting tomatoes. Robots will never be able to show emotion, right? And so this is why social media is so freaking powerful, and why it is the future, and why it's the future for every business, and every business needs to be taking it very serious.
Exactly.
But then people get into social media and they become overwhelmed, because they're like, Jeff, look at all these. I'm supposed to be on all these. I don't even post now. And I'm like, listen, stop, settle down. One platform, one at a time. Get to the point to where you're posting once a day. Figure out your pillars of content. We don't want to create a bunch of extra work. What is it that you do with your life? Define your pillars based on the things you're already doing, and then just get used to turning your camera on more often. Simple as that. And then so it's like don't recreate the wheel here. Just be you. And then focus on one at a time. And as you build that cadence, guess what? Now you've been posting to Facebook once a day for the last 6 months. Now add Instagram. And then guess what? Connect Instagram to Facebook, and you're getting 2 for the price of 1, because you can share it to the same place. Exactly. Okay, now you got comfortable there. Now let's move over to TikTok, or let's go to whatever it is, and that's the name of the game.
No, that's some awesome stuff. And I was actually hoping to dive in a little more, but looks like we're running a little bit out of time. But however, I did want to get to those 3 questions that I like to ask every guest, starting with number 1. What is a book or podcast that you listened to this year that you highly recommend and learned a lot from?
I don't have one. I will say, because I haven't been reading much, I mentioned the Jesse Itzler books. I love it. The Living with a Seal is a very easy read. It's massively entertaining, and it's totally worth reading. I want to read Matthew McConaughey's book or listen to it. Yeah, Green Light. Yep. That's high on my list. I just bought Will, even though that's a little bit of a controversial person. I know, right? Now. I've got Shoe Dog is another one that I want to read. That's the Phil Knight, the Nike story. I got a ton of books. Yeah. The podcast I listened to most recently that I loved was I listened to 2 podcasts with Mr. Beast. If you're not into YouTube, you may not know who Mr. Beast is, but he's probably the most famous and successful YouTuber. And so I'm always wanting to learn from the best in the biz. And so I listened to him on Joe Rogan. That was decent. He was actually better on another podcast, but you just search podcast with Mr. Beast, and it's powerful. He's awesome. Pretty amazing.
And then what would you, if you were, say, for example, talking to someone who's aspiring to be an entrepreneur or great in their space, what is one successful habit or one habit that you would deem as most important to be successful?
Be a student of the game. I think that relationships are critical. Yeah. But being a student, and what I mean by that is that carries into your communication skills. And the one thing that, again, I learned this kind of by accident, is that we as humans, when we get into a conversation with someone, whether it's somebody we're looking up to or it's just an employee, right? Yeah. Is we have an inclination of saying, I'm going to ask a question And then our mind starts to wander. And before they even finish answering our question, or when they do, we quickly fire in with, we want to talk about, oh, you know what happened? Oh, that happened to my kid too. And it's like, you stop and think about it. The person you asked the question to did not ask you about anything to do with your family. You asked them. So shut the hell up and listen. and then keep asking follow-up questions. And so the thing I've really learned is that people love to talk about themselves.
Yep.
And so if you're a salesperson of any kind, do your homework. So, use Facebook. I was doing this back when I used to originate, and I would, before I would go into a real estate office in a day, I would do my homework. I'd go to Facebook, see what they had going on. And then it gave me a talking point. Hey, I saw on Facebook that your kid had a ball game. That was awesome. Tell me. And then you just ask, and all of a sudden you see them just light up. But if I walked into the office and said, hey, I'm just want to tell you about this new program. You got any deals for me to look at? They're like, get the F out of here. Right.
Yeah.
But if you just make more human connections, you become a better listener, you ask more questions, you're going to find that even successful people like to talk about themselves. I mean, look at you with me. I mean, you just start asking me questions and I just start vomiting. It's the way it is,
Yeah.
And I think that it's a skill that is most people suck at.
Yeah.
And so be a student of the game. And not only can you do that on social media, through books, through podcasts, all that sort of thing, but you can do that with other humans. And you're going to get those humans that will want to spend more time with you. They'll tell you more, and they may even want to keep you in their circle because they'll feel a tighter connection to you because you made them feel good and they don't even realize why.
That's right.
And that's it. That's the key.
That's so good. That is so good. So how can people get a hold of you, and how can they say if they want, man, I love what I heard today. I want to get in that program. How can people be able to achieve that?
You can just connect with me on social. I'll give you a couple of ways. So it's my name. I'm the same name across every platform. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm not on Snap, actually. I forbid my oldest daughter from Snap. And even though that was a long time ago, I just have never adopted it.
Yeah.
So you can't find me on Snap. So it's my name on all those platforms. You're welcome to DM me. My cell phone is, I'll give you my cell phone. It's 314-220-4945. I don't have a burner phone. That's my cell phone. That's the one my wife calls me on. I actually do have two phones, but the other one's a second camera. it's not that you would believe.
Awesome.
And yeah, we've got a bunch of businesses, and I'll tell you, Michael, and I tell everybody this, you don't need me to be successful. And this is me as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because if you're a self-learner, you can go to YouTube and learn anything you want to learn.
That's right.
But if you want structure, if you want to surround yourself with people doing it at a high level, the Business Video School is awesome for that. If you want to be in a social media coaching platforms, we have group coaching where it's basically just a collaborative group that meets twice a month, and we're just sharing ideas. And then it's their job to go implement. And then we take it one step further. We have a consulting where we're actually helping manage their social for them. And that's a higher ticket item, but it's where it's basically, we're helping them come up with ideas and concepts. They've got to shoot the videos, but then we're taking our team and we're chopping it up. And so they've got long form for YouTube. We're doing short form on the other platforms. We're creating static posts out of those videos, and we're creating a lot of content for them, and then coaching them and teaching them on how to maximize it and create more connections. The one thing that we don't do is there's a lot of social media companies that are done for you services. I'm telling you right now, that shit doesn't work. It'll make you more consistent, but it won't earn you many opportunities, because if you're not the one pushing the buttons, connecting with people, it just won't work. And so we have a passion for that. We believe in that. If you want done for you services, you don't want to call me, because I'm going to tell you to get off your ass and do it yourself.
Come on.
So
that's good, man. That's good. I think it goes back to, hey, being surrounded. Yeah, you can go on YouTube, but being surrounded by individuals who are doing the same thing and doing it well, and learning, from them, you're going to be able to adopt those practices.
Exactly. And we're not going to be for everybody, but if you want that, and if you want that connection, which a lot of people do, but I'll be honest with you. A lot of times, if I need to learn something, if I see something on TikTok and I'm like, ooh, how'd they do that? I'll quickly Google it or YouTube it and go figure it out. If I don't have somebody to call, but since I'm kind of the trendsetter, I usually have to go search for it. So
yeah, that makes sense. Well, Jeff, this was an awesome call. So much value packed in a little time. Really appreciate you being on the show, and I'm excited for our listeners to be able to connect with you. and be able to learn from really this whole entire show. There's a lot of little nuggets in there, but so really appreciate you being on the show, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
Awesome. Thanks.